YouTube Ozick going. The Goat House is back. And today we're talking about the notable free agent quarterbacks. I'm also going to give you a fit for all the quarterbacks we're going to talk about, favorite landing spots. So excited about that. We have a bunch of videos covering free agency and the NFL draft on the channel, recent franchise tag videos, a bunch of fit videos, and we'll cover the combine next week in a mock draft after that. So excited about it. Hopefully you can subscribe and help us get to 100K. Almost there. Appreciate you guys very much. Follow our Twitter for takes and breaking news. Kirk Cousins. We're going to start with the big free agent quarterback. I've been saying for a while, I think it's either the Vikings or the Falcons. Maybe a surprise team pops up in free agency. A lot of teams after a big-time quarterback. I'm going to go with the Falcons as my favorite fit. Of course, we know he fits the Vikings, and he plays very well for them, especially with the weapons they have under Kevin O'Connell. I do love the fit with Atlanta, though. It'd be pretty cool to kind of see the Falcons with a pretty good roster be able to get a starting quarterback here. Because if they would have had a solid starting quarterback, I should say, because if they had one last year, it'd be pretty good, and now they maybe get a better coaching staff. But they bring in Raheem Morris, obviously coming from the Rams, but as their offense coordinator, they bring in Zach Robinson, who was with the Rams under McVay for some time. And Kevin O'Connell, who's the Vikings coach, came from that McVay tree as well. We know what type of quarterback appeals to those guys. You know, your pro-style quarterback like Kirk Cousins. We know he can run that offense, that McVay-like offense, but Zach Robinson's take on it. And again, they're a quarterback and maybe a pass rusher away from being a legit team. Like if you put Kirk Cousins in there with a pretty good offensive line, he's got weapons like Drake London, Kyle Pitts. They got good running backs. Bijan Robinson, obviously the weapon he is in the passing game. Raheem Morris calling that defense, very solid defense last year. Again, probably just need a pass rusher. Be a very scary team in the NFC. They'd definitely be the favorites for the NFC South. So I like that fit, and I definitely think the Falcons can make it happen. We'll see if the Vikings maybe sign him before free agency starts and kind of ruin the plans for the Falcons there. But combine next week, agents talk to teams, GMs, coaches, and a little bit of tampering going on at that time, but it happens. I'm not going to complain about it, but it happens, and maybe the Falcons are like, hey, we're going to be interested in your guy. We're not going to go too in depth because we're not allowed to, but so maybe that lets Cousins maybe he wants to stay in Minnesota. We'll see. His wife is actually from Atlanta. I don't know how much of a part that plays, but interesting stuff. I think those are the two teams to watch, his current team, the Vikings and the Falcons. For Baker, we have to put in this video because he is the second best free agent quarterback, and he's a big name here. But it is a little boring in this video because I do have my favorite fit. These are not necessarily predictions, but they can be fits and predictions, but I am going to say the best fit and prediction for Baker Mayfield is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Talked about him in the franchise tag video a little bit. I don't think they tag him. Wouldn't be worth it. They would like to reach a multi-year deal. Both Baker and the Bucs would want that. Baker having that, long-term security, I suppose, and then the Bucs being able to structure the way they wanted to structure it, with the guarantees. It'd be a little safer with the guarantees. You can't really do that with the franchise tag. It's fully guaranteed. It's 1 year. So I don't see the tag at all. So that would mean he could get the free agency if they don't extend him, and maybe some other team that's desperate for a quarterback. The Falcons looking for a legit one. If they miss on Kirk Cousins or if he's not available, do they go for Baker Mayfield? You can't really rule it out. I just see him back on the Bucs. He's kind of been up and down, for the most part. I don't want to talk like he's had a long career, but throughout his career so far, it's been mainly struggle, and he was solid with the Bucs. So I don't know if any other team would pay as much as the Bucs. Would they trust it? Would they be confident enough that he's going to be solid with them? I think the only person out there that would be, that's elsewhere is Dave Canellis with the Panthers, but they got Bryce Young. They're rolling with Bryce Young, so that's just not an option here, obviously. So Baker with the Bucs makes the most sense. For Ryan Tannehill, this is tough. I think the Steelers, there's a link there with the Steelers. Arthur Smith, who coached Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee, he was the offensive coordinator in Tennessee, and that the Titans were one of the best teams in football that year. Ryan Tannehill played very, very well. And since Arthur Smith left Tennessee to go to Atlanta, Tannehill kind of went downhill. He could just kind of be getting to that age where he's declined, and Titans didn't have the best receivers, though, but now Arthur Smith goes to Pittsburgh. They need some competition for Kenny Pickett. They have pretty good receivers there, unlike Tennessee the last few years since they got rid of A.J. Brown. And DeAndre Hopkins was solid, don't get me wrong, but a collection of guys over the last couple, since they got rid of A.J. Brown, there hasn't really been there. So But going to Pittsburgh could make some sense. Some rumors about them going for Justin Fields, possibility. Maybe they just go Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph. They sign him back. But I'm just having a hard time finding another spot for Tannehill. The Broncos, maybe, get him, then look towards the draft to find a starting quarterback or the quarterback of the future maybe. But he's going to go somewhere where he has a decent opportunity. Maybe New England. I don't know if they really want him, but I'm going to go Pittsburgh because that link with Arthur Smith and how he did with Tannehill, how Tannehill did with him, how he fits that offense like he could be a plug-and-play guy. Not that I don't know if the Steelers, if that's like their grade A scenario where we get Tannehill and we start him. I don't think they're saying that, but it is a pretty good option, for them, and there is that link, that connection there. Next, Gardner Minshew. I originally was going to say just going back to the Colts, because he had a really solid year. I know he had some decent moments with the Jags in the past, but hasn't really found that home, and he came in and he was solid. He helped the Colts win some ball games. They won more than expected. They had a chance to not only make the playoffs, win their division, or not only win their division, but make the playoffs, obviously. And they were that close, and he ran that second offense very well, so they know he fits. They do have Anthony Richardson, who's going to be the guy, but it's very important to have a high-end quarterback too, because Richardson, he had multiple injuries pop up. He got, he's already throwing, so that he's ahead of schedule. That's great. But he did have surgery on his throwing shoulder, so it's very important to get that QB2. So them making sure they get him back, I think actually, Minshew that is, I think will be maybe not the number one priority in free agency, but it's up there. It's a priority. But my thinking was Minshew could know that they're going to roll with Anthony Richardson. They're going to do that. So he actually could take less money or could get offered more from somewhere else to have a chance to be the starter. The Broncos are in a little bit of a hole at the cap space. They're going to clear themselves out of it. They would love to have I think Sean Payton would love to have like a Baker Mayfield. I think they would love to have Kirk Cousins, but I just don't think that's possible. We can't say 0% chance on that, but and they would love to have a Baker Mayfield, and then they're going to be able to pay what the Bucs are going to pay. It looked like Minshew. It just feels like a Sean Payton guy, a guy they can bring in. He's like, if we have to have him start, that's fine. He's capable of that. And then we look to the draft, and let's see if we can make a play on a potential starter, and then him and Minshew battle it out, in training camp. Seems ideal. And again, Minshew could be like, he likes the Colts, obviously, and he knows. He could think, Richardson might go down. I might have the opportunity again. Or he's like, this other team, maybe Denver in this case, wants me. They want to start me. They don't have a rookie. I mean, they didn't add anyone else yet. I'm going to go there. I can definitely see that. So do like that fit in the Sean Payton offense. So what would the Colts do in what would be a important QB2 role? How about Tyler Huntley if they can't get Minshew back? He's had opportunities with Baltimore. He's looked pretty good. He's looked really good in preseason when they take preseason very seriously. And then when he's had to start, a few times or more over the last few years, I should say. I think he can run that Shane Steichen offense. He's not going to be a fit for every offense. The Ravens were a little unique with running their quarterbacks, getting them outside in space. Guys that can, are athletic, can throw on the run, can take some hits. I like him with the Colts. He'd be definitely cheaper than Gardner Minshew. I think a really good option behind Anthony Richardson. I think he could fit that Shane Steichen offense. And they can, if they miss out on Minshew, at least they save some money. They can put their focus elsewhere. They have other needs for sure on both sides of the ball. I say mainly defense. So they're going to, save some money, able to do that. And Huntley's young. He's had starting experience. I like that fit a lot, actually, there for Indy if they miss out on Minshew. So who the Ravens going to get? How about Jamus Winston? I'm not going to sit here and predict like this will for sure happen, anything like that. It's a little out there. You could say Winston and the Broncos with Sean Payton, some ex-Saints guys on the staff over there. I think Winston at this point, someone's going to start him where they don't, they're not hoping that, or not even close to hoping that he's their starting quarterback. They're going to sign him just to strictly be quarterback too. So I look at the Ravens. Winston did play under Todd Monken at one point. And that was probably, Winston threw a lot of interceptions those years, but he was extremely productive. He had big play ability. So he can run that Monken offense. And in Lamar stayed healthy this year. That was great, but getting a guy that has some experience, and then it's a bonus experience. And I know it's not exactly the same offense as what Monken ran when he was the OC in Tampa, but experience in his offense. I think that's a positive. So bring him in as the sure thing quarterback 2 behind Lamar Jackson. Probably be cheap. The only thing is the decision he made against the Falcons at the end of the year to not take the knee to go against his coach. There's some coaches that aren't going to like that, and Harbaugh will definitely be one of them. He's not going to put up with that. But I feel like Harbaugh and Winston are the type that Harbaugh's going to be like, all right, we're going to get him in. I'm going to tell him, like, you are going to take a knee if I tell you to take a knee. And I think Harbaugh will realize or can understand that he can get through to him. And Winston will probably listen to him. But that actually is a big thing. Like, if he's not going to listen to coaches, that could be a problem for his free agency. But I do like the connection there, that link, with the Ravens and their staff as quarterback 2. Sure thing quarterback 2 there if they don't bring Huntley back. Next, Drew Lock. I like a lot of teams for Drew Lock, actually. He's probably my favorite sleeper quarterback. He's got starting experience. He's still young, still has upside. He has a strong arm. He can throw on the run. I think he's getting better. When he had to play for Seattle, he looked pretty solid. There was moments that like really weren't big moments, but you can see like he's got it in him. He's got the talent in him, like not crazy talent, obviously. But there's quite a few teams I like. A good situation for Drew Lock could be Minnesota if the Vikings don't get Kirk Cousins. It's a pretty good situation. Improving offense line. You got Justin Jefferson, good receivers over there. Could he go to New England? It's not the best situation there. Could he go to the Falcons if they miss out on their guys? Could he go to the Raiders? I like the Giants. I think they need a quarterback. They're going to insist on Daniel Jones, which I blame them for giving him the contract I did at the time, but I don't blame them at this point for being like, all right, we pretty much got to give Daniel Jones a shot. I don't really blame him for that. But they are going to, they're going to make quarterback 2, a high-end quarterback 2, a priority, a guy that can possibly start, a guy that maybe they feel can take Daniel Jones' spot or step in if he gets injured again. And Lock with Brian Daboll, I think would be it's ideal. I think Daboll can get the most out of him as well. But he can go back to Seattle, another team I should have mentioned. And the Bears got Shane Waldron. If they trade Fields, they add Lock, and then they go to the draft, take a quarterback. A lot has to happen there, but that's a possibility. So out of this, funny because out of all these quarterbacks, the one that I think has the most potential landing spots that makes sense is Drew Lock. It's not Kirk Cousins. It's not Baker Mayfield. Those guys are better, obviously, but there's a lot of landing spots I like for Drew Lock. But I go the Giants. It's a guy that I can see take it. The only thing is the Giants don't have the best offensive line. They don't have the best receivers. That's the thing there. So that make them take a step back. I think they'll improve those things this offseason. In Brian Daboll, I think he can play pretty well under him. So, and then Sam Darnold, I'll put the Vikings. The Vikings very well can get Kirk Cousins back. He's a tremendous fit there. And this isn't necessarily a prediction, but I'm going to put the Vikings. He could go back to the Niners as well. I'm a Vikings fan. I don't really want Sam Darnold if I'm being 100% honest. If he's like if they get him and he's a sure thing quarterback 2, then I'm okay. Yeah, I'm good. We're good with it. And I do think Darnold probably, if he had to play for the Vikings, maybe he could play his best ball yet because the Jet situation wasn't good. The Panther situation wasn't good. He's behind Purdy and the Niners. It's a good situation, obviously. But the Vikings with an improving offensive line and Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, pretty good situation for a guy that was supposed to have all this talent. And even though I never really was high on him, but so if they miss out on Cousins, I can see them signing a Sam Darnold and then looking to the draft. Either way, if they get Cousins back, if they don't, if they get Darnold or Drew Lock or somebody like that, either way, I think they're going to be really targeting a quarterback in the future in the draft. Pretty good quarterback draft class. So I do think that they're going to try, at least. I'm not going to guarantee they add a quarterback to the draft, but they're really going to make it a priority in the draft, possible trade. So no matter what they do in free agency, Cousins or not, somebody else, Darnold, whatever, I really think they focus on the draft, or whether it's first round or second round. I would. They're going to try in the top 2 rounds for sure. I really think so. But Darnold for the Vikings, I thought was a pretty decent fit. With or without Cousins there. And then one more. How about Jacoby Brissett back to the Patriots? Remember, that was his original team. I think Brissett played pretty well, actually, when he came from Howell. For Howell, he actually looked better. He actually a couple times brought the Commanders back in games. I mean, he was solid for the Browns when he had to fill in. He wasn't great, but he was solid for them. I mean, he's always been a decent quarterback. He's a very smart quarterback, very experienced. He's ran multiple offenses. So if he had to start, he definitely could do that. He's shown that. He's not going to be the greatest in the world. And then there is that link, that connection here. The Patriots hiring Alex Van Pelt, who is coming from that Brown staff, which actually coached Brissett, not this year, but obviously the year before, where he started to start the year. So there's connections on multiple levels. He used to be a Patriot. Obviously, that organization knows him. So I think the Patriots, it sounds like they're going to move on from Mac Jones. Bailey Zappe's either you can be a backup, maybe back to the practice squad. Remember, he was early in the year, was there for the Patriots. So they're going to need a quarterback before the draft, because you never know what's going to happen in the draft. Maybe they like Caleb Williams and Drake May. Maybe they don't like Jaden Daniels, and there's been rumors, or maybe they do and they don't like Drake May. Whatever. There's been rumors that they maybe may not like that quarterback. That's the third quarterback that's available at 3. They could trade back because the roster does need a lot of help. So maybe they add Brissett. Maybe he's their bridge quarterback. Even if they stay put at 3, they draft one and they learn from Brissett. In any scenario, they could add Brissett here in free agency. So I thought that one actually made a lot of sense. Sometimes people don't see, and it makes sense, quarterbacks going back to like where they started, or a team that got rid of them. I can see it in this scenario. I definitely could see it. So there's other quarterbacks that are decent. Flacco's like Browns or retire, or could he go to the Patriots? I guess we could have talked about Flacco. He could go to the Patriots, Browns, retire, any of those. There's other quarterbacks. These are the ones I just really wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the guys I felt pretty good about fits for, and the obvious top-tier guys like Cousins and Baker Mayfield that we absolutely have to talk about. Cousins is definitely the feature guy because he's the best of the bunch, a very solid, experienced quarterback. It'll be interesting to see. Did the Vikings sign him up before? They can't tag him. They extend him before free agency. Do the Falcons get a crack at him as another surprise team that comes in and gets him? Maybe pays a lot of money for. Excited to see that. Excited about free agency in general. It's always a fun time of the year. Same thing with the draft. We have you guys covered with all kinds of content. Go to our channel. You will not be disappointed with what you see. Please subscribe. Almost at 100K. Check out our sponsors: GLD Shop, Liquid IV, code GOAT for a percentage off. Links pinned in the comments for that, and our Twitter. Very important to follow this time of the year. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.